For years, women have been told that lifting weights will make them bulky, that strength training will make them look like men. But the truth is, strength looks different for every woman.
Strength training for me isn't just about building muscle or getting stronger, it's about being a better you.
For Arlana Warne, strength wasn't just about the gym, it was about surviving something most people couldn't see. Living with endometriosis meant days where the pain was so intense she could barely walk. Times when doctors told her the pain was all in her head, yet she kept pushing forward, not just as an athlete, but as someone determined to also have a great career.
Doors have been shut in my face because I'm female. I cannot go and work in male sport because I'm female. It takes time. You have to go through the hard stuff for then obviously the younger generation to have the doors open for you, but it doesn't mean it's not frustrating.
Because strength isn't just about lifting heavier weights. Sometimes strength is simply just advocating for yourself when nobody else will.
Advocate for yourself. You need to advocate for yourself, and it's a process.
If you're a woman who's ever been told that your pain isn't real, or that you don't belong in sport, or even if you're a male coach or leader working with women, then this conversation is for you. I'm Neale, and this is the Midweek Motivation Podcast. Let's dive in. Well, I think just to get started, we're just going to open the can of worms here. What is the biggest misconception with, I say, women in strength training?
I think there's a lot of myths around strength training and how, well, for years we've been taught that, strength training is going to make you bulky, it's going to make you look like a man, when actually, the definition of a strength looks so different for each woman that does it. So, for me, strength doesn't look like lifting the heaviest weight, but it looks about feeling strong in my body. So there's a lot of different definitions of strength, I think, that needs to start coming into the industry in that sense.
Yeah, it's still quite common that I come across as a PT when I come across a female client or a consultation, and the biggest thing they say is they want to build muscle, but they don't want to get bulky. What would you say to those women who are in that mindset when it comes to starting their strength journey?
Just trust the process. You don't know unless you try. And I think when they come in, and I'm sure you've seen it, they come in with inspiration pics of what they want to look like. It's actually, well, you're not going to get that if we don't do the strength side. And there's so many benefits of strength training for women, their bone density, their hormone health is affected by it. So it's not just the end result of what you look like, but also how you're going to feel in your body is huge.
Yeah, definitely. That was actually going to be my question, in particular, the benefits for women for strength training. But you've already answered that. So excellent. This is why you're on the podcast, Arlana Warne. Thanks so much for joining.
That's all right.
First episode of 2026 I'm recording, so forgive me, everyone, if I'm a little rusty. But thank you for joining. The sun is out today, and yeah, I'm really excited to dive into this episode. Lana, tell us more about you and how you started your journey into health and fitness.
Oh, Christ, this is always a fun question.
We've got plenty of time.
I know. I started sport when I was younger, so I played netball from probably the age of 8, as soon as I could in school. Always loved sport, always loved the way it made me feel. I was always less academic, more sport-based side of it. And then as I got older, I found, my journey sort of transitioned from being an athlete to sort of having to manage a medical condition where it's became important for me to be strong in my body and keep moving, but it wasn't about pushing those limits anymore. And then from there, through my own experience, I went and did, or I'm still doing, unfortunately, a master's in strength and conditioning, where my focus is very much on female health, the anatomy and the under-researched area in that. And then here I am today. I'm now head of performance at London Mavericks netball team, which is very exciting. Got that recently.
Yeah, so cool.
Yeah, and yeah, we're just sort of living the dream, really.
Amazing. And what do you do day to day in terms of your new job?
So new job is very much about managing female athletes on court, off court, so their gym work. I program all of them for that physical development and that long-term plan as well. But it's also about looking after their welfare. A lot of it behind the scenes, the nutrition side of things, making sure they're making the right decisions, even looking at some of their data in terms of their sleep performance, making sure that we've got a sweet spot of where they sit, and just looking after them as an athlete as a whole. So it's more about the athlete-centered approach rather than it just being about S&C.
Yeah, fantastic. And are you working with other people in that role? Is there someone else helping you with the S&C side, nutrition?
Yeah, so we're quite a small team at London Mavericks. We've got myself as head of performance. We've got a performance analyst. We've got a couple of interns for that department, and then we've got a physio, head coach, assistant coach, and a team manager as well. And then there's a business side of it. But yeah, we're quite a small net team. We also have touch points that we can rely on with England Netball in terms of people that we can contact for support, but also like based out of the university that I work out of. There's some people that we can touch upon, but it is very small, close knit what we do in terms of that. And actually, like, it's really positive. Like, we're a really good group, and we like bounce off each other, and we help develop each other in different areas. So like, it's not just a one size fits all type situation.
Yeah. That's fantastic, because I'm seeing a lot more, obviously, you know, through my degree as well, that a lot of sporting organizations are having this huge team around them. It's not just about the training, it's a whole holistic approach, but it's still a lot more, it's only coming across it really in men's sports. Are you seeing at this level now? Is that changing in the women's side, or is that really only the top professional level?
I think our definition of professionalism is very jaded in the fact that we very much look at it from a men's perspective. So like, our idea of professionalism in sport is based off what we see on the men's side. So you look at football, for example, we view that as the pinnacle of professionalism because they get paid the most, they get the most resources, they get what they want out of it and what they need without any sort of barriers. I still think in female sport, whilst we are making really positive steps, there is so much more room for us to grow. And it doesn't necessarily mean about having more staff or more things, but it's the way that we go about things and the approaches that we have, and make sure we've got enough research in female health. Like, everything that we do with our athletes, and like, we've all been culprits of it, is based off of the male population. All the research in sport is based off male population. So we're trying to implement stuff that categorically, from a physiological perspective, isn't the same, but we're trying to apply it to these athletes, and it doesn't make sense.
Yep.
So I still think whilst we're making really positive steps, and like, for example, my job role, if you look at it in any other sport, and actually any other organisation than the one that I work for, it would be a man doing it. So I am actually in such a privileged position to have my job role and be a female in sport and advocate that steps that we're making, which are really positive. But there's not a lot of females in sport, and, you know, I think we've got a lot more room to grow in terms of that professionalism.
And why do you think there's not enough females in the sport?
The high performance environment isn't something that a lot of people can put up with or deal with correctly. There's not necessarily the role models out there, and I think this is like one of the main reasons why I'm saying pretty much yes to everything in 2026. Is like, growing up, there was never on TV, you look at a football game, rugby game, 9 times out of 10, if there was a female there, it would be the physio, or it would be an all-male team. So you don't have those role models growing up to be advocating for the fact, like, no, there is space for you here. There's space for you in this environment, and you can do it well. Same thing at my master's level. Like, none of my lecturers on my uni course are female.
Oh, really?
Yeah, none of them. And growing up, even when I went for my bachelor's degree, there was only one female lecturer, and it's always like, you're constantly in sport, got a man in front of you. Yeah. So it's subconsciously shuts down that idea of like, oh, there's space for me here, when it doesn't feel like that sometimes.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's very interesting. Yeah, I've never really thought about the people at the university, the lecturers, the tutors, all that. Trying to figure out, when I did my bachelor, I think it was more like a 70-30 split. Yeah, so not, it's getting better.
Yeah. It's definitely improving. It's hard as well, because it's this environment that we're going into as well. There's not the space for you either. And as much as, from my experience personally, like, doors have been shut in my face because I'm female. I cannot go and work in male sport because I'm female.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's really slams the face.
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah. It's funny because I was having this conversation the other day. My CV hasn't changed. So like, when I was applying for the job that I've got now, my CV hadn't changed from that job versus the other jobs that I was applying for.
Yep.
And it's like, well, how have I got through the door on this side of it, but I don't even get an interview for this side? It's just funny to look at sometimes, and then you do realise those biases are still there. Yep. And it might be subconscious, and it is just a societal thing where like, it takes time.
Yep.
And you have to go through the hard stuff for then obviously the younger generation to have the doors open for you. But it doesn't mean it's not frustrating.
Yeah, definitely. And it's very much a complex problem that needs to be solved, and it shouldn't be, but it is. But what are some small things that, say, someone coming to, like, is inspired by you, wants to get into sport, whether as an athlete or as a coach or someone in the sporting realm, what would you do to like help them keep pushing to find the right door to get to that next level?
That's a really challenging question, because it's a for me, it was a personality thing. Like, I've always been so competitive in what I do, and I've always known deep down that I'm meant for something bigger in that sense. Like, I always push myself to do better, learn more, educate yourself further, do that stuff. I think just be patient. I think sometimes it's a typical quote, but everything happens for a reason. So, like, the reasons why I didn't get those jobs was because this job was waiting for me in my head.
Yeah.
I think you can look on reflection and probably think, well, actually, would I have been happy there? Probably not. Would I have experienced that, like, male-dominated industry? Yeah. Am I in a female-dominated environment right now? Yes. Am I loving it? Yes, absolutely. It's, you know, everyone always said it was quite funny. My first day, everyone realised, like, oh, we're an all-female staff. This can either go really well or really bad, because obviously, like, you sit 8 females in a room, like, you know what it's like, you know, emotion starts becoming into it and things like that. And that's not saying we're emotive, it's just saying, you know, there's an extra level of understanding and empathy that you have to have when having conversations and things like that. But from my experience, it's gone really well, so I don't think it should be shut down. And I think if you are someone in that situation who wants to push, to just keep going. Like, it will eventually happen for you at some point.
Fantastic. And is there anything that you're doing at the moment, or what you plan to do, to help improve the whole women going into sport or fitness?
I think, you know what, like, I'm a big person for, like, advocating. I push stuff out on social media. Like, I try to educate as much as possible. So, like, some of the stuff I've been doing at the moment is, like, bigger picture wise, I'd love to be able to have a system in place where, you know, their menstrual cycles are being tracked, that we adapt stuff based on that, we have conversations. But there's this huge thing where you can't jump a mountain. So, like, I'm thinking bigger, and I'm like, oh, I'd really love for that to be in place, but actually I need to do the smaller stuff first, where actually I need to educate the athletes first. So a lot of the time you go into a space, and it's not just with the athletes I'm working with at the moment, but when I talk to my friends, my family, like, they couldn't tell you what the phases of the menstrual cycle are. They don't know how it affects their body because they don't track it. So there's so much stuff that you need to do, but I think education's a big thing, and that's something that I'm probably not doing enough, that I'd like to anyway, is using my page to educate on that side of things, for sure.
Well, I guess help us educate here, Lana. It was Reel that I'm thinking of that you did with Antonio, who's been on the podcast, and it was like a progressive overload, I think it was, where 4 weeks of training, Antonio was like, keep training each single week. And then, but from your perspective, it was different from a female. Can you help us educate on on that process? What inspired that reel, and what it actually really means?
I think there's a lot that inspired reels like that. And it's not just because you've seen it on social media, it's like understanding the difference that men have. Like, so for example, you wake up every morning and you get the same amount of testosterone levels. It might fluctuate a little bit, but you get that boost in the morning and you're steady throughout the day. I wake up in the morning and it's dependent on what week of the cycle I'm on, whether my endo has a flare up or not, whether I feel my hormones have gone up or down, and what type of hormones have gone up and down. There's so much to play around with it. So when we're talking about doing the training around that, there's so many factors that you need to, it's not the sole responsibility of, but you need to take into consideration when, like, you might have lifted, say, your 1 rep max the week before, and that was because you're at your very peak of your hormones and you can lift really strong, and then the next week you can't move that weight at all and you're exhausted. And it's about having a bit of grace with yourself and being able to put that out there in a way that's almost humorous. Like, you're not, you know, like, you can have these depressive videos about how, like, you know, you're going to feel exhausted this week and you're going to feel this, but actually, like, it was just a joke. Like, but that is very real on how some people feel. And it's very interesting to see where things have even changed in that past sort of year since I've done that reel, of actually where we're at.
Yep. And how would you adapt your training around your cycle?
I think the key thing is making sure it's very particular to you. I wouldn't implement what I do to someone else. I would maybe speak about it and I could say, oh, this has actually really helped me, but I wouldn't try and do a one size fits all for every female that I work with. For me personally, I find sort of when I'm on my period, I have the worst pains in the world. So, like, training for me during that is a no-go. It's listening to my body at that stage and understanding that whilst movement helps it, it might look differently for me that week. So it might look about just doing a stretch on the floor and calming my nervous system, which is like huge, or getting out for a walk and just doing 10 minutes, and it might be really light stuff.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that I can't gym during that time. There's been times where I have been able to, but it's about making specific adaptations. Something that one of my old S&C coaches used to do for me when I was training was remove any sort of like axle loading through the back. So no heavy back squats, but you can go on the leg press, and that completely reduces the amount of pressure that's going through those really key points. So yeah, there's lots of stuff that you can do. And then like when I'm out of that phase and I go into my follicular phase, which is the next step before ovulation, is, you know, that's the time where I can push myself a bit more. It's the time where, you know, I can do that high intensity stuff. I can really push with the plyos, and I can push with the strength based stuff. And then you hit ovulation, and that's where like you can still do all of those things, but you need to be a little bit more mindful. Or I know I do anyway. My ligaments and my joints can sometimes go a bit funky during that time, to the point where it hurts to do some of those plyo stuffs because of like the laxity in the tendons and the ligaments. So I'll avoid kind of doing that stuff. And then in the latter half of the cycle, in your luteal phase, it's where energy drops, your metabolism increases, so you have to like fuel yourself a bit more to be able to get through some of the stuff. You're tired all the time. Like my fatigue levels go up through the roof in that phase because of the progesterone levels like impact your sleep and things like that. So yeah, it's just it's really hard to say like this is what's going to work for you, but that's what's worked for me, and it's taken me absolute years to figure out. So it's years of okay, that didn't work, and that's okay. And there was times where I used to get so frustrated of like, oh, I can't fucking train. I don't understand why. Or like frustrated of the fact that I can't lift the same as I did the previous week, or, you know, my jumps weren't as good and things like that. So it's about understanding the fluctuation and actually the time and process that it takes to actually fully understand your body. But what I will say to people is, if you're thinking about doing it, track your cycle and track every single thing you feel. So you might not think it's related, but if you're getting a headache a week before your period, write it down. If you're getting, you know, stomach cramps at certain points, write it down, because also like all of this stuff helps when you're trying to figure out what works best for you. So, yeah.
Cool. Hey, just a quick announcement before we return to the podcast. If you're someone who's been feeling a bit stuck lately, maybe you're switching careers, rebuilding your routine, or just trying to get your life together, I get it. That's exactly why I write the Midweek Motivation newsletter, where every week I share real, honest thoughts on training, mindset, and the messy process of figuring life out. Especially for guys like us, we're in our 20s and 30s, just trying to get ahead in our careers, fitness, and performance. It's short and it's personal, and it might just give you the push you need during the middle of the week when it's least motivating. You can subscribe using the link in the show notes below, or go to substack.com and search up Midweek Motivation. All right, let's get back to the podcast.
No, thanks for sharing that, because definitely like I didn't learn nowhere near as much in-depth knowledge in my PT course or when I was doing my sport and exercise management degree. And yet, you know, half the population is female. I'd say 60% of my clients are female as well. And it's just, I learned so much from every client as well. It fills in the gaps, because obviously I would never understand what that feels like.
What's your experience being training female athletes? What would you say the biggest difference between like male and female?
I'm training a lot more older women at the moment, so I'm learning a lot more about menopause.
Yeah, oh my god.
And how that really affects like not just their training, but just their life, their stress, their work, everything. So that has been a real like eye opener. So I have one client, and she has had like probably the worst symptoms that I've come across anyway to understand for menopause. So that has been challenging to fit around her training, because she is really strong. Yeah. And it's kind of, she feels very frustrated when on days when she just like, she can't lift at all. She'll feel she's not weak because all these chronic pain, but we just get her to do some light movement, change up the exercise. Okay, what doesn't feel bad at the moment in terms of pain? Train that. And then the next week we're like, okay, let's go again.
I think that's really key, is like that adaptability and making sure that like, you know, your clients have still got the autonomy over what they do. You're there to support that. You're not there to demand that you do these movements. If it doesn't work for them, it's not working. I think it's a key thing that's missed in so much education, and it does always stem back to that education point, is like, until you experience it and you're open to educating yourself on it, you're not going to learn about it, because it's not ever put in front of you.
Yeah.
Like you said, for example, the PT courses that are out there, they don't touch upon
Yeah.
They touch on like postnatal stuff, but they never touch upon the menopause, menstrual cycle, effects of like the whole female physiology. I think it's a really key thing that's missing in that space, and actually would help a lot of people. I remember how many conversations I used to have at Fitness First with people about educating themselves on the female physiology, because there's so many of like the male PTs that are training female clients, and they were having conversations where they were like, I don't understand why they can't lift the same as last week. I don't get it. And it's not their fault they don't get it.
Yeah.
It's that lack of education and lack of knowledge around it. And actually, once having those conversations with people, they were like, oh, that makes so much more sense. And then they go and do their own research, and they're like, oh my God, guess what I found out this week? Or like, you know, like, it's not a case of there's barriers anymore of you guys wanting to learn about it. It's just the education isn't necessarily pushed in front of you.
Yeah, you have to really go out and your own way to find that knowledge. And I think it's the same with pre and postnatal, menopause, all that. When I had that conversation with female clients, it's not something that happens straight away. And I try not to like push it. Obviously, being a male, I want them to feel comfortable talking to about it. So it's not something they generally bring up straight away. And I don't know if this is right or wrong, but I kind of just let it all right, we'll just continue as is. And then if we experience some setbacks or if they feel maybe uncomfortable at that training, this is an opportunity to discuss about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't generally bring it up in the first session unless there's obviously something that they're going through that has impacted their current training.
I think that's huge though, is like creating that environment and safe space that people do feel comfortable talking about it. It's not like a thing that you need to avoid, but it's also not a thing you need to push. Like when that person's ready to speak about anything, they will. It's the same for male clients. If they've got an issue, 9 times out of 10 they probably won't tell you unless it's like a physical injury. They're not going to tell you they're suffering with anxiety.
They'll dumb it down a bit.
Yeah, exactly. Injury. So it's like it takes time to build that relationship up with people. Yeah, I think that's really refreshing to hear. Actually, it's like, you know, you can go one or two ways on the scale of either really pushing it and becoming really hyper fixated on that, and almost it becoming too much for that person, where you're trying to change everything and really focus on the menstrual cycle or menopause or whatever. It doesn't need to be that drastic. It just needs to be enough that you're acknowledging and creating that space for someone to talk about it if it's necessary.
Yeah,
sure.
Tell me more about endo, because this is another level to all this that you experienced personally.
Yeah, happy Endometriosis month, guys. It's a really tough condition, and it's not easy to live your day to day with. And once again, it's one of those things that we don't speak about enough. It's a condition where the lining of your uterus, when it sheds during your period, it doesn't all shed, it sticks to areas it shouldn't do. So it can cause chronic pain, inflammation. It's an inflammatory disease. So a lot of the time, it's not just on your period where you have a lot of pain, it's your day-to-day life. And it might be on a minute level where you're like now, for example, got a little bit of pain, but it's not to the point where I can't do anything. Or it will be really extreme. I can't move, physically can't move, you're throwing up, you've got all of these symptoms. It's a really hard condition, and it's one of those ones where I was having this conversation the other day with my partner where like there is no level that someone can understand it unless you've got it. He's seen me at my absolute worst. He's seen me with my head down a toilet and seen me like not being able to walk, literally having to carry me through the house because I can't walk. And like the issue with the disease is that it's silent. So like you'll look at me and you'll think she looks fine, she looks great actually.
I agree.
But like, you know, you learn to live with the pain and smile through it because it's expected from you. So like one of the big things about my old job was that I didn't have that space where if like I was having a really bad day, I could just rein back, or like you were constantly on your feet, and like that is part and parcel of it. And like I'm sure you'll vouch for me, like I'm constantly walking around with a hot water bottle because that's one of my coping mechanisms. So like people in the summer when they saw me walking around with a hot water bottle, they were like, "What are you doing? Like you're nuts!" Like, but it wasn't about that. It was about the pain that I was in. And you learn to wear it really well. And I guess that's really hard because then people get confused. Because physically, the way that you look absolutely fine, and you're smiling, you're laughing, but actually inside you're literally like, it feels like someone is holding a hot knife in so many different areas of your body. And someone's constantly just prodding you.
Okay.
just constant, and it radiates and it throbs, and there's so many different feelings that you have with it. So yeah, the condition's really difficult, and it's something that I'm still learning to live with, because I only got diagnosed a couple of years ago. I had my fair share of like ovary issues with like a cyst on my ovary which got removed, and then post that operation I thought it would be all better, but the pain was still there, and I was like, oh, something really doesn't feel quite right. So I went back to the doctors, and unfortunately after years and years of me having to advocate for myself, they were like, okay, let's finally do the operation to see whether you've got it. And they did it, and they found it. And
Wow.
there was like really funny. I remember, actually, and my mum will laugh about this, I remember waking up from that surgery, and obviously you've got anaesthetic in you, so you're a bit crazy anyway, but I literally just started crying. But like, I started joyfully crying, because there's an element to the condition where, because of how long it takes to get a diagnosis, it takes about 7 to 10 years to get diagnosed.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my
So it's a
God.
whole process, and I am a strong believer that actually more people have it than we know about, but because of that length of diagnosis, we're always delaying that percentage of people. So at the moment it's sitting at 1 in 10 people have it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my
But
God.
I strongly believe there's way more than that. But obviously because of the length, it just takes, that statistic is never going to go up because it's not being diagnosed quick enough.
So when did you first start experiencing symptoms, or something was not right?
As soon as I got my period, the
Yeah.
first ever time.
Oh my
it
God.
was just like, I remember being at school and like, I know this, well, actually no, it's not too much information.
No,
Because we're
anything can be
speaking about it. And this is the issue, like you go in, this is part of the issue actually. I remember being at school and getting like one of my first periods, and like literally blood was gushing down my legs. Like I could not stop it. And obviously I was at school, so like panic central, my tights were covered. I tried to go to the nurse's office and be like, I need to go home, because I was throwing up. I felt like I didn't know what was going on. Like, that's your first experience of having a period. Like everyone always says like, oh, in like the whole sex education sessions that you have when you're younger, like, oh, it's only like a cup of blood, you're fine. And I'm looking down and I'm like, well, that's my cup on the floor.
Yeah, yeah.
It's still coming. I started it as soon as I got my period. It's known to be a hereditary disease, so my mum has it. So when I started experiencing more and more painful periods, my mum was like kind of being like, oh, you might have this, you might not, I don't know. But she was like, they're not going to do anything for you. She's been through the system before. She'd been like messed up by the system to the point where she actually had to have a hysterectomy because nothing was done about it.
Yeah.
And she was actually really poorly from it. I remember one of my first memories as a baby is visiting her in hospital post having me, because she had so much endometriosis build up that like the blood wasn't leaving her body anymore. It was going around, and it was really bad.
Yeah.
First like few periods it wasn't really bad, and then as I grew up the pain just kept getting worse and worse. And I actually, like, it was when I was playing sport the most that I realized it. So it was a really weird feeling, and also knowing the diagnosis now, I know why that was the case. But like I just had this really sharp pain that like wasn't a stitch. And everyone always just kept telling me, oh, it's just a stitch, you're not fit enough. Like, you need to go and do some more cardio. Like, you're just not fit enough. And now when I look at it, it was like this pinpoint area right by my ovary. And I was like, that's not a normal place to have a stitch. And then, like, obviously I found out that I had a cyst on my ovary. And that was probably every time I played sport. Was probably twisting, turning, moving stuff that shouldn't have been moved, like putting pressure in areas that it shouldn't have been. And so that was like probably one of the key signs that I was like, oh, that's probably also not normal.
Yep.
Every time you go to the doctors, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this, you go for a period issue and it's shut down straight away. It's like, right, on the pill, off you go, see you later, we'll see you in 5 years time.
My gosh.
And it's so heartbreaking, like soul destroying, when like you know in your body something's wrong. Like I'm a so strong believer in, you know your body best. And if something doesn't feel right, it's probably not right. And I remember there was one specific time where I was sat in a doctor's office and I was bawling my eyes out because I'd got to the point where I was like, no one's listening to me. I don't understand why none of you are taking this seriously. And I remember she sat there and she said to me, well, I'm not going to send you for a scan because your pain is mental.
The pain is mental.
My pain was mental to her, in the sense of like, it's all up here. Like sometimes we can make up pain in our head and it you know, it can radiate through the body. And I was like, you are absolutely having a laugh. I screamed at her and I was like, I will literally bet money on it. I was like, I will come back into this office with the tail in between my legs and apologise profusely if I am wrong. But you send me for that scan and we find out the results. It's just a non-negotiable. If a man went into a doctor's office with excruciating stomach pain, was throwing up, fainting, they'd see him like that. They'd be like, oh, let's investigate this further. But when a woman goes in there and it's related to menstrual cycles, it's like, nah, we'll stick you on a coil, a pill, any type of contraception, because they don't actually have a response for it. They don't have an answer. So yeah, I then years and years of advocating for myself and having issues and missing work and missing school and missing really key points of life. Got the scan through, had an ovarian cyst, which obviously was the one thing, and then that pain didn't go away, and then got diagnosed with endometriosis, and that was a whole process in itself where actually mentally I wasn't ready for that.
Yeah.
I think you build it up so much in your head that there's something wrong with you. And whilst there was relief in understanding what categorically was wrong for me, there was then that mental side of understanding, okay, well, there's actually now nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do for the condition. So it's like you either go back on contraception or you learn to live with it. And that is part of the mental battle of it, is understanding what you need to do for yourself. And also, my life gets affected so much by it with my friends and my family. I can't do as much stuff as I would like to do, or I have to cancel sometimes because I have a flare up, or work. Sometimes I'm stood there and I'm like, oh, I need to sit down. So sometimes you don't look the most professional, and it's frustrating because it's a really hard condition to try and navigate in that sense.
For sure. Did you have your diagnosis after you finished sport?
Yeah. So I had my diagnosis 2 years ago, and I think I just stopped playing netball by that point, because it just got to the point where I was like, I don't understand what's going on in my body. I physically can't push myself anymore. And that was just the stage that I was at. It must have got so bad in there that I couldn't push. And there's been times where, I've got my training under control now. I know exactly what I need to do. I really want to go back to playing sport, and I'm very, very dead set on it that I will be playing netball again. Not sure at what level I'll be playing.
Yeah.
Might see me on Clapham Common.
Yeah. Well, I guess knowing that, what you know now, having a diagnosis, if this was happening when you were still playing netball, do you think you would still play netball?
Yeah, I think I probably would. I think, unfortunately, you push through the pain because that's what you're taught to do. I love sport, and I don't think you need to give up what you love doing because you've got something. It's just adapting it and understanding it. And actually, if the people around me had a true understanding of what I was going through, I would have been in a way better place, because there would have been days where I don't just push through the pain. There was days where I'd come into training, I'd probably be having a flare up. I didn't know what it was at the time, but I'd be having a flare up. We do conditioning, and I'd literally be in the toilet throwing up. And it wasn't because I was unfit. It was genuinely because it caused so much pain, and I shouldn't have been pushing myself at that point, which actually stands me in a really good position of where I'm at now, and something that I can happily, and something I'm really proud of myself for, is being in a position where I can be that person that says stop to someone if they need it. I'm in the position now where if someone is struggling, I've got the knowledge behind me. I can't diagnose it for them, but I've got knowledge around the whole the cycle, different conditions that you can have, and how we can sort of adapt it based on that, for sure. Yeah.
Wow. I've learned a lot from that, and thank you for being brave and sharing your story there. Is socials something that you still want to keep pushing?
100%. It's just really hard at the moment. I'm juggling, obviously, having my dream job, plus my master's still. I'm doing my dissertation at the moment, and then I'm also I've had a lot of health issues in the past few months that have really stopped my training massively. And I find that typically, and it is bad, but I don't like to put the negative stuff out on the internet, because in my head I've always been told to be quiet, in the sense of what you're feeling and experiencing, you should ignore. So when I'm going through the negative stuff, I don't post it on social media very often, or it will go on my close friends list, and it's something that I need to hold myself to a better account for, because actually for me, if I put something negative out there, it's I'm craving attention from it, which is not not the intent behind it whatsoever, but my head subconsciously tells me like, no, that's attention seeking, you shouldn't put that out there. And it's obviously like the fear of putting it out there and getting the wrong impression across, or like someone saying something that you don't necessarily like. So social is like still a really big thing for me. I think there's so much positive in social media along with the negatives, but like if the right people are doing the right things.
Yeah, and I think you're really finding the right niche for you now. The content you're putting out initially, it was a lot on just beginner exercises for women, for growing legs. But I think now it's...
I used to hate that stuff. So this is really funny because I used to hate training like that. I hated it. And like that was a really key point for me. And that was like, I would probably say about maybe 9 months ago, where I was like, I'm so bored with training. Like, this is so boring.
Yeah.
Like, just doing squats and RDLs, and I just, the repetitive nature of it, just from the background that I've come from sport, like, that wasn't a stimulus to me whatsoever. And I wasn't really seeing any progress from it. Like, I wasn't pushing myself the way that I needed to. Like, I wasn't progressively overloading my body. Like, I literally was just going through the motions because I found it boring. And then I've always done plyometrics, but I had stopped doing them for a bit because I didn't see the relevance, because I was like, I'm not playing netball anymore, so I actually don't need to. But there's actually so many benefits from still doing it. And yeah, it was just really interesting. Like, I switched and I was like, do you know what, like, I should not put something out there just because I think it's what the norm is. Like, this is actually what I love doing, and that's okay. And like, sometimes you feel so stupid in the gym just hopping around and like doing really silly
Most
stuff.
people won't understand.
No, but like, it's in a public gym. Like, people always joke about that thing. Like, as an athlete, doing your exercises in a public gym is so embarrassing and humiliating sometimes, but you gotta learn to lean in it and find it funny. Like, part of plyometrics is you're gonna do something and you are gonna mess up. Like, you are going to fall on your face, or you're going to trip, or you're going to do something, and you just got to live with it, and you got to laugh it off. And there's so many videos that I've got on my phone where I literally just stop and laugh at myself, because I'm like, that must have been so funny to anyone else watching me. And it's actually just sitting in that and thinking, oh, that's okay, that's quite funny. Like, it is, for sure.
Well, now your content is geared towards plyometrics, exercise if you want to be more explosive, build strength, build power. And now you're starting to share a bit more about endo as well. Is this the niche that you kind of really want to start going down?
Yeah, I think I hate niches. That's really silly, but I really do.
I know what you mean.
The way my brain works is like, I get an idea and I'm like, oh, love that. Brilliant, go for it. And like, sometimes if you put yourself in a bracket, it's very much like, oh, I don't know whether I can touch on that because that's not what my niche is. And that was part and parcel of why I never posted about plyometrics when I started, because I was like, oh, this isn't really the space that I've created for myself. I've very much boxed myself in that female, grow your glutes, grow your legs, do whatever to get your core. Ugh, gross. So yeah, I don't think it's necessarily a niche, but it's definitely something that I have more knowledge on. So I like to share that sort of knowledge in terms of like how you can start off, how you can progress. Obviously, now that I'm working with athletes, it's a bit easier to sort of, that's the type of training they do. So like, I'm in and around it all the time, and I'm thinking about programming based on the needs of what they need to do for their sport. So yeah, it's not necessarily a niche, but something that I really love doing. Yeah,
amazing. And for someone who is not an athlete or playing sport, why would plyometrics really help them in their training?
It helps with, like your tendon elasticity, like the strength of your tendons as well. I think from a day-to-day perspective, there's lots of little movements, and I always think to myself, you trip over, you need to be able to catch yourself, like, or else you go and face the fight. There's that stretch shortening cycle type movement that isn't just specific to sort of jumping as an athlete. It's, you're tripping over, you're getting up flights of stairs, or like you want to go for a run, you want to play with your kids, you want to run around the garden, there's stuff that you do which still rely on the systems that based around plyometric training.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good answer. I like the tripping over.
That would be me.
Yeah.
I actually tripped on my way here. So with coffees in my hand, and I managed to keep them up. So.
Okay, that's the next level. That's a progressive.
Yeah, that's the next step, guys.
Yeah. Nice. Well, we can start to wrap up the podcast from here. Any last things you want to share that we've kind of maybe haven't touched on? Anything we talked about?
What have we spoke about? I've just talked. I think mainly just from like a female perspective, like advocate for yourself. There's a huge like message, and it takes time to learn. But if you're younger or if you're older and you still feel like there's something that's like categorically not feeling right for you, you need to advocate for yourself. And it's a process, and it's tough, and it's hard to go through it, and like you have to be strong with that. So like when I'm talking about strength at the beginning, there is an element of strength training for me isn't just about building muscle or getting stronger. It's about being a better you in every aspect of your life.
Yeah.
It might even be just speaking up for yourself. Or it might be like, oh, I can do that, so I know, I can also try this and do that. And that's that whole definition of strength for me, like, doesn't exist in like this social norm that it does for like a normal gym goer.
Yeah.
For sure.
Nice. Well, thanks so much for being on the Midweek Motivation Podcast, Lana. Where can people find you? On socials, not in real life.
It's like, I'm not sure I want that. You can find me on Instagram mainly. I actually don't know, what is my name? Fitness_with_Lana.
That's the one.
I haven't been on there for a while, so that's probably why I'm like, ooh, whatever.
Yeah.
But mainly Instagram. Dabble a little bit on TikTok, not so much anymore. Same username. But yeah, mainly on Instagram. I post quite a lot. Yeah, maybe one day I'll end up with a podcast like Cam.
Maybe.
Who knows?
Yeah.
And he'll be coming on mine.
Oh, okay.
Who knows?
Yeah, I've got to prepare the topics then. What am I going to talk about? Nice. Well, everything will be, all your social links will be in the description below. Thanks again on the podcast. And yeah, look forward to see what you get up to in the near future.
Thanks for having me, Cam.
Cool.
Appreciate it.